Ladies and gentlemen, this is all about making the right choices in life. You see the title, but I'm going to call this the rise and fall of O Block. It's not looking good for these dudes. We're talking about these guys might get convicted, who knows, but the evidence that the feds got are damaging. The 15 seconds of mayhem on the Gold Coast that was left by these guys in the FBI affidavit, he lifted the curtains on the FBG Duck murder case, which was one of my favorite artists. Now I'm going to read this article to you, and I want you to be the judge on why the gangster life is not the good life. And a lot of ghetto kids get caught up like this due to influences. Yeah, you might have killed somebody, but now your life is ruined and your kids' lives are ruined because you're not getting out of this. You're never going to see the streets again, and you won't realize you did something wrong until you get older. Now, ladies and gentlemen, come down this rabbit hole with me. The document lays out key evidence that led to last year's indictment against 5 alleged O Block members, street gang members now accused of a brazen killing. It also pointed to so-called diss tracks which have fueled the street violence. A lot of people was mad for the Dead B song that, FBG Doug did. You know what I mean? And Boss Top made reference in that in the video, but not say nothing about Troy. But we'll take this walk with me. The broad daylight Gold Coast murder of rapper FBG Duck in August 2020 involved 4 mass shooters who left 38 bullet casings behind, an attack that lasted all of 15 seconds according to a newly unsealed federal court record. Much of what happened that day at the murder scene on Oak Street and elsewhere as the gunmen neared were captured on video according to the 45-page document, which included an FBI affidavit. It lays out key evidence that led to last year's indictment against 5 alleged O Block street gang members now accused of this brazen killing. It says investigators towed a car used in the shooting one day after it happened. Later searching found evidence that implicated Charles C. Murder Liggins. The document also pointed out the so-called diss tracks, the song posted online in which street gang members disrespect rivals, fuel violence on the street. The document, a search warrant application originally filed on October 1st, was unsealed earlier this month. It sought a judge permission to examine phone data associated with Liggins as well as Marcus Muwop Smart and to Carlos Offord. All 3 would be charged in an indictment filed in September 30th, which also named Kenneth Robertson and Christopher C. Thang Thomas as defendants. The indictment was unsealed October 13th. FBG Duck, whose real name was Carlton Weekly, was identified in the document as a member of the SCLEBT or Tukaville fraction of the Gangster Disciples, which is said to have a feud with O Block, a fraction of the Black Disciples. Now, Weekly was killed at 4:26 on August 4th, 2020, according to the affidavit. 16 minutes earlier on Oak Street, it said Weekly got out of a car driven by his girlfriend and stood in line outside. Weekly's mother said he was out shopping for his son for his birthday, which is the truth. FBG Duck don't go nowhere. Around the same time, surveillance footage showed Liggins, Smart, and others running down a stairwell in Parkway Gardens on 63rd and Martin Luther King Drive, according to the affidavit. It said Smart, which is Muwop, and another person got into a Ford Fusion owned by Offord. The FBI believed Liggins got into a Chrysler 300 with the other 2. From there, investigators were able to trace the vehicle path from Parkway Garden to the scene of the murder using video surveillance and a POD camera around the same time Weekly got out the car on Oak Street. The feds say the Fusions and the Chrysler were seen traveling the same direction in 6200 block of South Wentworth. Just 5 seconds apart, the vehicles were spotted on camera at least 7 additional locations. The government lays out what happened at 426 in the first block of East Oak Street. The Fusion in the car stopped in front of a dark-colored sedan that happened to be driven by Weekly's girlfriend. Two jumped out of the passenger side of the Fusion and opened fire on Weekly, who ducked with another person behind his girlfriend's car. Two of the people also got out of the passenger side of the Chrysler One. The front passenger opened fire on Weekly's girlfriend, while the other fired at Weekly. The shooters then got back into the Fusion and the Chrysler and fled, according to the affidavit. It said Weekly's girlfriend was shot twice in the left wrist. The person who ducked behind the car with Weekly was shot 3 times and were left in critical condition, according to the feds. Weekly died shortly after the shooting. And let me tell you something. I seen that video when he was struggling for life on the floor. It was a gruesome picture, the feds say, but it's unclear how many times he was shot. The FBI special agent who authored the affidavit wrote that Weekly was shot approximately 21 times. And this is where I got an issue with a lot of y'all. This is why I hope a lot of y'all go to prison. I don't feel sorry for none of these guys. With that level of intense violence against another black man disgusts me. 21 times? But the agent also cites a Cook County medical examiner report that said Weekly was shot 16 times. 38 cartridge casings were found at the scene, including a 357 caliber casings. Meanwhile, the Chrysler was spotted on police cameras in 8 additional locations before surveillance video showed up, returned to Parkway Gardens at 4:56. The video showed Liggins getting out of the passenger seat, according to that affidavit, the day after Weekly's killing. Police found the Chrysler in the 2100 block of Gerson and Burwin and towed it, the document said. When it was searched on August 13, 2020, investigators found a handwritten note that appeared to list Liggins' Facebook and Instagram account, as well as a phone number for Liggins and his baby mama, which the FBI took to mean as BM. The FBI wrote the investigation also found a 357 caliber casing between the Chrysler's windshield and hood and examined a casing and the one found in the scene. And Weekly's murder showed that were consistent with being fired from the same firearm. Police had previously said Weekly's shooting might have been motivated by derogatory statement towards deceased members of the Black Disciple gang members made by Weekly on social media. The FBI affidavit points a multiple online video, including a June 2020 YouTube rap video in which Weekly performed as FBG Duck. Said, "I wasn't going to diss the dead. Okay, I did it," Weekly said. Then the agent wrote Weekly mentioning in a degrading manner 9 name aliases and monikers of deceased individuals, all believed to be Black Disciple members. According to them were O.D. Perry, who was shot and killed in 2011 at the age of 20, and the namesake for Oblak, according to the affidavit. Perry killing had been sparked of series of retaliated shootings, including the 2014 murder of Jakara Barnes, who police say was a female gang assassin for the Gangsters Disciple faction in the neighborhood. In a separate video posted that day, Weekly murdered Devon Benton, the rapper known as King Von, could be seen repping Oblak OTF 300, but check the stats. None of that. He been throwing shots. I bet he catch them back, according to the affidavit, which said Bennett wrote an Oblak medallion, wore Oblak medallion in the video. Investigations took the verse as reference to negative repercussions coming to Weekly as a result of a Weekly's disrespect. In other video, the feds noted that Weekly had talked about being childhood friends with Shondell Tuka Gregory, who was shot and killed in 2011 at 15 years old. This why I go crazy when a mother effer mentions his name. You feel me? Because the mother effer don't know that, like, it's bigger than that. Them saying that in their songs, you feel me? Liggins, 30, has a history of violent encounters with the police near Parkway Gardens. He was arrested in July 2019 for shoving a Chicago police officer near 64th and Martin Luther King. Officers has responded to the call of a person with a gun when a crowd formed and Liggins refused to leave, according to the police report. He pleaded guilty for resisting arrest and was sentenced to a year in prison. In October 2009, officers was on a drug investigation and said they saw Liggins fire at a group of men near 63rd and Martin Luther King. The officers ordered him to drop his gun, but he pointed it at them. They shot him in the leg, according to the police report. He pleaded guilty to aggravated assault on a police officer with a firearm and was sentenced to 18 months in prison. Liggins' co-defendants Robertson, 28, and is separately charged in Cook County Criminal Court with the January 30th of 2020 fatal shooting of Lorenzo Moore in Dalton. At the time of that killing, Robinson was free on bail on a Cook County gun possession charge. All this is said, what I just read to you, that these guys have a troubling past, and I don't know what to say. But hey, we'll see what these cases when these guys go for trial. The sad thing about it is just more and more black men lives are gone, thanks to drill music.